Good morning and thank you for joining us. If you can remember, in the past lesson we covered algebraic expressions where we dealt with like terms, adding and subtracting them. So now today we'll be starting with algebraic equations. And so algebraic equations, put simply, is us solving for a variable, okay? So let's say in a case we were given an expression like, let's say, a very simple one which we can solve by inspection. We're given 2x is equal to 6, right? The main aim of this is we're trying to get x by itself. So if we can break this up, we know that this is 2x is actually 2 times x, okay? And so it's 2 times x is equal to 6. So how can we get rid of this 2, okay? The way we're going to get rid of this 2 is by dividing the 2 out of this side, okay? So if we're doing that, we have 2x is equal to 6, right? So to get rid of a 2 here that's next to this x, we're going to divide by 2. But what we do to the one side of the equation, we'll always do to the other side of the equation, right? So this will be 6 divided by 2. So we get x is equal to 3. So there are some important things that I want you to remember when we are dealing with algebraic equations. So the first one would be that we always need to get x by itself. Okay? X, we always have to try and get x by itself, right? Then also, what we do to the one side, we need to do to the other side. Okay, so that would apply to this situation over here where we did a division, right? We divided by 2 to get x by itself. But you see we did that to this side over here, right? You can see we've done that over here. So we need to do it again on the other side, right? So that's why we divided the 6 by the 2. So that would be the second thing, right? And just for your guys' peace of mind and to make it a bit simpler, we're always going to want to have our letters to one side. So that would be, so we'd count this as our letter over here. This would be our number with a variable. So we bring our letters to the one side and our numbers to the other side, okay? So let's say we were given an example like 2x plus 1 is equal to 7, right? We'd try and keep our letters on one side, preferably to the left side, and we take our numbers to the right side of the equal sign, right? So again, this is the third thing. Letters to one side and numbers to the other side. So just so you can see, this would be number 1, x by itself. Number 2, what we do to the one side, we must do to the other side. And letters to one side and numbers to the other side. And then the last thing also that I want you to note is that whenever we take anything over the equal sign, we change the sign, okay? So basically what I mean by that, I'm going to explain to you with this example over here, right? So if we want to get if we want to get x by itself, okay? If we want to get this by itself, which is x, we're keeping this on the left, right? Because we want our letters on the left and numbers on the right. We're going to have to move this positive 1 to the other side of the equal sign. So remember, we're jumping over our equal sign over here. So we're taking it over, and what happens is we're left with 2x on this side, right? So 2x is by itself, and we'll have 7, which has a remainder on the right side because we want our numbers there. So now this is the very important part. Whenever we carry something over the equal sign, change the sign, okay? So we're changing the sign in front of the 1. Remember, it was positive. Now it will be -1, okay? So in this case, we have 2x plus 1 is equal to 7. To get x by itself, we took the positive 1 over the equal sign, and because of this rule over here, we can say that the positive 1 changes to a negative 1, right? So if we look at that, we're left with 2x is equal to 7 minus 1 is 6, right? So you can see we've come back to our first example over here where we had 2x is equal to 6, right? So we've come back to that now. And if we can remember, we have to get x by itself now, right? So we have 2x, the letters on the left, numbers on the right. Now we need to get x by itself. And the way we did that before was, to get rid of this 2, we had to divide by 2, right? And remember the rule, which was the second one that I did, what we do to the one side, we must to the other. So it's 6 divided by 2 as well. So therefore, we are left with x is equal to 3, once again. So guys, very important, just remember these 4 rules that I have written down. You will use those for almost all of your algebraic equation examples, right? All of those rules will apply. So if we're going to look at another example, right? We're given 2x plus 1 is equal to x minus 5. Okay, so if we look at this example, right, we're going to look at what are our like terms first, right? We can identify what are letters, what are numbers. So we can see here that 2x, that would count as a letter, right? Because the variable x is in there, and we have a variable x here on this side as well, right? So that is going to be another letter. We're going to look at our numbers. We have positive 1 over here, and we have negative 5. So if we can remember, what do we want to do with them? We want to get our letters to the left and our numbers to the right. So if we're going to do that, we're going to bring this x over, and we're going to bring this x over, and we're going to bring the positive 1 over as well, right? So we're going to bring the positive 1 to the right hand side, and this positive x to the left hand side, right? So if we do that, we are left with 2x is equal to, now remember, this was positive x, right? Now it's going to be a negative x, right? And then if we're going to say negative 5, it will stay the same because it's staying here on the right hand side, and we're bringing positive 1 over, right? So what happens to positive 1? Remember, the sign changes, right? So we get negative 1. So now if we're going to work that out, we get 2x minus x. So if we get 2x minus x, we know that there's invisible 1 here in front, so it's the 2 minus the 1x. They like terms, so we can minus them, and we're left with just 1x there, right? And now we have negative 5, negative 1. So remember both signs, so we're doing negative minus and negative. So we add both numbers, we keep the sign, and we are left with negative 6. Cool. So just recapping on what we've done in this example, we identified what are the variables and what are the numbers. We brought all the letters to the left hand side, all of the numbers to the right hand side, and then we solved for both sides, right, by using the like terms. Okay, now we're going to look at a different example quickly. Let's say they gave us x plus 3 is equal to negative 9 plus 2x. Okay, let's look at this example quickly. So we can identify once again variable, number. So remember when I said now we want our letters on the left and our numbers on the right hand side, right? So straight away we can see on the left hand side we have 1x over here and we have 2x on the right hand side, right? So obviously if we're going to bring the 2x over, it's going to become negative 2x. So if we're going to say x minus 2x, we're going to get a negative x, right? And we can't really get a negative x for an answer. So in this case, it would be better to just bring the x over to the right hand side, right? So if I'm going to do that, right, I'm going to bring first the numbers over. So we'll have positive 3, right? Sorry. We're going to have positive 3. The 9's coming over, so it's going to be positive 9. Okay? And we're left with 2x is equal to, it's 2x minus the x that we're bringing over. Because remember this x over here, the sign will change to a negative. So once we've done that, we can now say, therefore, now we can just switch the sides around, right? It doesn't matter, we can just switch the sides around. So we're left with 2x minus x is x, which is equal to 9 plus 3, which is 12. Awesome. So very important here with the things that we've done. We saw that if we're going to bring the x over to the left hand side, we were going to get a negative x, and we didn't want that negative x, so we just switched it over and we said we're going to take the x to the right hand side in this case, and so we got 2x minus x, and then we just finished off the example by swapping the sides around. Okay, so now if we're going to look at our last example, we get given 2 open brackets x plus 1 is equal to 5 open brackets x plus 3. Cool. So what do we know about these? Okay, in the case where we were given an example like this, we need to times our 2 into our brackets and our 5 into our brackets. Okay, so first thing we always have to do is simplify both sides, okay, of the expression or of the equation. So we know that how we're going to times this in is the 2 is going to times into the x first, and then it's going to times into the 1 as well. Okay? And then our 5 is going to times into our x first over here, and then it's going to times into our 3 over there. So that's how we're going to times our 2 and our 5 into the brackets. So if we're going to do that, 2 times x is 2x. And then we have 2 times 1, which is, it's a positive 1, so it will just be positive 2 is equal to 5 times x, which is 5x, and then 5 times 3, which is positive 15. So we have both sides now worked out. So if we can identify 2x is the variable, 5x is the variable, positive 2 is the number, and positive 15 is the number. Okay, once again we see 5x is the bigger variable, so we'll keep 5x to the side and we'll actually bring 2x over to the right hand side, right? And we can see that we're going to bring the numbers over to the left hand side. So if we're going to do that, we're going to have 2 minus 15 now. Remember, the positive came over the equal sign, so what happened was the sign changed to a negative, and so it's equal to 5x, which is now minus 2x. It was a positive 2x, we brought it over the equal sign, the sign does change. Okay, then what we get left over with is 2 minus 15, so if we're going to do that, we're going to get negative 13. Cool. Or the way we could look at it is negative 15 plus 2 to make it a bit easier on us. And then 5x minus 2x, we get 3x. Cool. So we can just switch it down the sides quickly. So therefore 3x is equal to negative 13. So we can work it out a bit simpler. And so if we're going to get x by itself, the way we're going to do that is we're going to say 3x divided by 3, negative 13 divided by 3. What we do to the one side, we have to do to the other side. Okay? And so what we're left with is, so the 3's will cancel each other out, so we're left with x is equal to our fraction of negative 13 over 3. As you can see, we cannot simplify this fraction, so we will just leave it as negative 13 over 3. Okay, thank you so much for joining us in the recording today.